Hey, the PMP exam is one of the most difficult tests for professionals, and we've heard this from everyone. But not to worry, you have a coach who eats the PMBOK for lunch. Here he is to set the record straight for you, your friend Phil.
Hello, my friends. Welcome to a very quick earned value scenario. Now, we're going to go through a number of things today. We're going to talk about earned value, but we're also going to talk about the other formulas, because some of you have been using formulas as an excuse for not taking the exam. Formulas are important, but at the same time, you cannot keep spinning your wheels, running on the treadmill endlessly under the formula pretext. So today we're just going to kick some ideas about formulas back and forth. We're starting with earned value. Now, some of you know the earned value metrics, but in parrot fashion. You can recite the earned value SPI, CPI, CVSV, and all that stuff. But when it comes to the application of it, I realize that some of you are not quite there yet. Some of you do struggle. So we're going to take a look at this earned value scenario really quickly, and I'll point out some of the hallmarks of earned value. In this example, we have Dan, an IT project manager, who is promising to get 5 servers installed in 5 days at $12,000 per server. Now, when you have a problem like this, my friends, it is important for you to identify what all these parameters mean. First of all, you want to identify that the time box for this project is 5 days. You want to identify that every day your planned value is $12,000. So you need to be able to take the question and make sense out of the metrics, the numbers that you're given. And in this instance, we can calculate that the budget at completion, the BAC, is going to be the cumulative planned value. In other words, it's the planned value for every part of the project. For day 1, for day 2, for day 3, for day 4. You add all the planned values together, you get the budget at completion. Now, I know that is not very apparent in your favorite book. You gotta hunt for this information, but it is implied somewhat on page 267. You go to page 267, you realize that under the budget at completion, it says the sum of all budgets established for the work to be performed. What they mean is the sum of all the budgeted work scheduled. So the budgeted cost of work scheduled is planned value. If you add up all of the planned values, as you can see how used, that column on page 267, it says against the BAC, the value of total planned work, the project cost baseline. They should have just said the sum of all PVs, the sum of all planned values. That's the pragmatic way of reasoning it. So the bottom line is your budget at completion, my friends, is the sum of all of your planned values. And when you take this question and you put it into a chart form, you have something like this. So the budget at completion for his project is $60,000. Day 1, $12,000. That's the planned value. The same for day 2 all the way to day 5. The planned value for day 1 is obviously $12,000, as I've explained. So when you come across questions, you are going to have to take whatever you're given and make sense out of it. Let's move on. The planned value for day 1 is $12,000. Of course, you already knew that. So there's the install plan. Dan ends up completing all the work for day 1. What is the value of work completed? So when you get something like this, again, you want to be thinking about the pragmatic names and terms for these things. So what they're asking for here is really the earned value. The value of work you complete is the earned value. If you get all the work for day one accomplished, then you've earned $12,000. See? So Dan ends up completing all the work for day one. What is the value of work completed? So again, you need to be able to take this and say, all right, 100% of the work for day one is 100% of $12,000. So the value of work completed for day one is $12,000, of course. And what do you call this value of work completed? It's known as the earned value. The earned value, the value of work completed, which is earned value, is also called the budgeted cost of work performed. My suggestion to you is know all the different ways this could be spun, the way it could be posed in a question. But earned value is the budgeted cost. Remember, the budgeted cost is $12,000. The budgeted cost of work performed. The budgeted cost for day one was $12,000. You accomplished all of it, so the budgeted cost of work performed, you performed all of it. Now, if you only performed 50% of it, then the budgeted cost of work performed would have to be 50% of what you budgeted for that work, which would have been $6,000. Does that make sense? So, Dan ends up completing all the work for day one. However, he spent $14,000. So have you ever been on a project where you got all the work done, but you spent more money for task, for phase? Well, that's exactly what this is referring to. So Dan ends up spending $14,000 to get $12,000 worth of work done. That $14,000, what's it called? You should know by this stage that this is actual cost. That $14,000 is the actual cost. Apparently his team went over budget. He's not very happy. But with what you know on day one, you can actually calculate the SPI, the CPI, the CV, and SV. So if you take the PV of 12,000, the EV, which you know is 12,000 as well, and the actual cost, you can use all of those to find the schedule performance index, the cost performance index, schedule variance, and cost variance. So if you plug those numbers in, you will get the answer. But before I do that, I want to give a massive shout out to one of our students who just sent me a message this morning. I was very pleased to see that Dinesh has aced his PMP exam. So very well done, Dinesh. And last night, before we ended the show, I talked about Ken Jackson, who is now a PMP as well. Ken got certified last night. So two of my students in the space of 24 hours have dealt PMP a huge blow. So congrats to both of you, and looking forward to hearing your lessons learned. All right, so let's move along. What is the SPI, CPI, CVSV? It's so easy, this one. So what do? You just apply the numbers. The earned value is 12K. The planned value is 12K. EV divided by PV is SPI, right? The CPI, what is the CPI? It's earned value of 12,000 divided by actual cost of 14,000. These are things that you should have at your fingertips, right? So the formula for schedule performance index, which I hope you remember, SPI is EV divided by PV. Always remember earned value comes first. For CPI, and I'm writing with a mouse, so forgive my horrendous writing here, but CPI is EV divided by AC. You would do the same for the schedule variance, but this time you're going to subtract and earned value always comes first in all of these formulas for the indices and the variances, remember. So this will be EV minus PV. And if you plug these numbers in, you get the answer. It's very straightforward. Or you should get the answer. So this was for day 1. I believe this is day 1. We're going to plug the numbers in. I'll bring out my calculator and make sure that what I've got here is right. Cost variance. Okay, cost variance is earned value minus actual cost. All right. So if you plug these numbers in and, get used to using the calculator, because guess what? You're going to need that calculator on your exam. But you're going to use the calculator on the computer. You're not going to have a standalone calculator most of the time. So let's do these one by one. I believe what I may be showing you here is for day 2. So let me take that out and let's do day 1, just day 1. All right. Day 1. All right. Day 1. So on day 1, your scheduled performance index, as we have seen, is going to be 1, because it's going to be EV divided by PV, which is $12,000. Don't forget the dollar sign, although the dollar sign is going to cancel. But it's always good practice to remember your dollar sign. That's 1. Cost performance index is earned value divided by actual cost, which is your 12,000 divided by your 14,000. Let's do that with a calculator. 12 divided by 14. And that gives 0.857. I'll round it to 0.86. And if you take these same numbers, exactly the same numbers, I'm sorry, I wasn't showing you what I was doing. All right, so you got that, okay? If you take these same numbers, I'm going to show you here in a second. You take the same numbers and instead of a division sign, you put a subtraction sign. You get all the answers. Why don't you try that on your own while I cook this up here? And then we'll compare notes at the end. Okay. So when all is said and done, I know those of you whiz kids who are like, oh, this is easy. That's fine. Look, not everybody is as advanced as you are. There are a lot of folks who are still struggling with the basic concept of EV stuff. So if you're a whiz kid and you're light years ahead, this may be very elementary for you, Or it might just serve as a good sanity check. You never know when you're going to learn something, right? So, indices and variances. Here we go. So the indices, we have 1 and 0.86. The variances, we have a 0 for day 1, and we have a minus 2K for the cost variance, which shows we're not doing very well. Now, if you take those same numbers for day 2, you'll have minus 3K for the cost variance, but everything else is pretty much the same. So what you can learn from this is that on a project you could be doing really well in schedule but bad in cost, or you could be doing really bad in cost and doing really well in schedule. Okay, so that is earned value basics 101. Very, very easy. On the exam, you should also be used to taking a look at things like this and being able to say if it is good, bad, or something else. So a little exercise for you. 0.5 SPI. What is that? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it something else? What about a cost variance of $5? Good, bad, or something else? What about a schedule variance of minus $50? What about a cost performance index of 1.01 or a schedule performance index of 3.09 or a cost performance index of 0.65? On your exam, you may not be given an explicit question with a lot of text, but you very well could be given a question that tests you on SPI and the meaning of it by giving you numbers and asking you, what do these numbers mean? Okay, you want to play along? All right, let's do that. So for 0.5 bad, $5 good, minus $50 bad because it's negative, 1.01 is good, 3.09 is too good, so there may be a problem. Someone may have padded or dollars were charged to the wrong cost code, and 0.65 is bad. So that's how you need to look at these things. All right. So what is a summary of all that we've said? In the world of earned value, there are many parameters, many moving parts you need to know. They're all represented here. I've shown this before. For your exam, you need to know pretty much all that you're seeing on the screen, the PV, the EV, the AC, the indices, and don't forget you need to know your EAC. Okay? So the summary of it, my friends, the earned value metrics, earned value, planned value, actual cost, budget at completion, SVCV, SPI, and CPI, you need to know all of these, right? And then you also need to know all of the formulas for these. Okay? You need to remember earned value is king. They all start with EV. If it's a variance, subtract. If it's an index, divide. If it starts with S, think S for schedule, planned value. In addition to this, you also need to remember that if your index is greater than 1, it's good, generally. If it's less than 1, it's bad. And if it's equal to 1, your project is on target. Okay? What about the variances? Greater than 0 is good, generally. You got to be careful that it's not so significantly higher than 0, because that could mean you padded. It could give stakeholders cause for concern. Negative is bad, equals to 0 on budget or on schedule. These are things you need to remember, and then when you get a question like what I gave you, this will make sense. All right? Good. For those of you looking for training, I also want to remind you, the website to go is pmsucceed.com if you want to register for a current class, which happens on Saturdays. It's pmsucceed.com. Now, before we end today, I want to call your attention to another concept on the exam, and it's the concept of graphs. You could get earned value graphs on the exam. But what I want you to pay close attention to is the positioning of the lines. Anytime earned value is under, it's bad. Just remember that. Anytime earned value is under planned value, it's bad for schedule. Why? Because planned value is the schedule metric. You need to remember this. Planned value is the schedule metric. Actual cost is the cost metric. If you have your earned value and nothing else, you really don't know how well you're performing. But if you've got your earned value and planned value, then you can see your schedule performance or the schedule variance. If you have your earned value and your actual cost, then you can see the cost performance or the cost variance. So anytime actual cost is above earned value, it's bad. Anytime planned value is above earned value, it's bad. Anytime actual cost is above earned value, it means your cost performance is under what it should be. Your cost performance should be on par with the actual cost over here. You should have earned value. Worst case scenario, smack dab on top of actual cost. Anytime earned value is lower, it's bad for cost. The same for schedule. Planned value is the schedule metric. Anytime earned value is lower than planned value, it's bad for schedule. Keep that in mind. All right, moving a step further. When you get problems like this and you're asked what is the state of the project, you need to look straight for earned value. Anytime earned value is on top, good. Anytime earned value is below, bad. But you need to look at it in the perspective of schedule and cost. Forget about looking at PV and AC together. That gives you nothing for your question. So if you've just got AC and PV, it doesn't tell you anything. For it to tell you something, it must have earned value in the mix. So right now, month 1, month 2, month 3, month 4, month 5, you can see earned value is on top. You're doing well. In other words, you are ahead of schedule. You are ahead of the blue line. You are on top of the blue line, ahead of schedule. Anytime you're on top of actual cost, it means you are under budget. It's counterintuitive. But anytime earned value is above, it's good. That's what you need to remember. Okay? Earned value is on top, good. Earned value below, bad. Earned value on top, good. Earned value below, bad. So earned value on top of planned value is good all the way up to month 6, and it's smack dab in line with planned value. That means you're right on schedule. It's not bad. That's good. Now, as the project gets to month 7, what happens? Earned value is lagging behind. Now you're behind schedule. You see that? That's how you need to view these graphs. Actual cost. You can see actual cost is lower than earned value all throughout. In other words, you're getting more value than what you paid. Management likes that. But be careful that it's not so significant, because if it's a significant difference, you're going to be questioned about why, especially if you work for the government. They like everything to be smack dab in line. Don't get so ambitious and start getting under budget so significantly. Even if it's a good thing, you are going to be asked, why? Didn't you do good planning? That's one of the peculiarities of plan driven. They want it to be exactly as planned. If it's anything different, you padded or you're lying. So just be careful with that on the exam, okay? If anything is so significantly above 0, it could be a bad thing. Okay? So that's the place of graphs on the exam. Again, you could get graphs, you could get charts, and they are both important. You could even get some creative histogram being made up. Very important as well. Okay, let's move ahead. We're almost done with this aspect of formulas and things I wanted to call your attention to. The last thing I want to show you here for your exam is the topic of WPD. It comes up quite a lot, and even though I've got videos out there, I still get questions about WPD, WPI, WPR. So let's take a look at this. Phil, a resource on this project, is suddenly unavailable for 5 days. So what? Well, you need to analyze it further. Phil's not being available is known as work performance data. Okay, it's a raw observation, but it's not enough. That raw observation needs to be analyzed. So what are we going to do? Analyze it. We're going to analyze Phil's absence for 5 days from the perspective of quality, schedule, cost, and risk. What will it do to quality? What will it do to the schedule? What will it do to cost? And what will it do to risk? Well, Phil is a subject matter expert on the QA and QC team. Quality will be severely impacted. What about schedule? There will be a 4 to 8 week schedule delay due to his unavailability. He's a key resource. What about cost? Oh, it's going to add additional cost and penalties. And there are new risks that will not achieve our goals, all because Phil is not available. You get what I'm saying? It's one thing to realize the data, but it's another thing for you to analyze the data. The raw data just says, oh, we've got 5 widgets done. Okay, how many were we supposed to have gotten done by this date? Saying 5 widgets are done is meaningless except you put it in context. You get what I'm saying? And that is why WPD is not enough. We need to make it WPI. This is the WPI. So work performance data examples of it are raw observations and measurements as work is being carried out, work completed KPIs, technical performance measures, start and finish dates, number of change requests, number of defects, actual cost, actual durations, things like that. Okay. Now the WPD, we need to take it, we need to convert it into WPI, and then we need to put the work performance information into a work performance report. So work performance data comes from direct to manage project work, and it's an input to those monitoring and controlling processes outside integration. And then those will analyze WPD, give you WPI, and that WPI will then go into monitor and control project work, and that's where we get the work performance report. So let's take a look at it closer. Direct to manage project work gives you work performance data. The work performance data goes into validate scope, control scope, and all these other processes. Now, how you remember these, they are all of the processes in monitoring and controlling outside of integration. See that? Then those in turn give you WPI, work performance information, and that goes to monitor and control project work. That gives you work performance reports. And the work performance reports will go to 4 processes, 3 M's and a P. Perform integrated change control, manage team, manage communications, monitor risk. And that's it. Boom. End of story. You see? So simple. What you need to remember is this bulk of processes over here. They are all in monitoring and controlling. They're outside of integration. These, just remember the 3 M's. 2 are manage, 1 is monitor, 1 is perform integrated change control. And that's it. Pretty much. Your WPD, WPI, WPR. I know it causes people a lot of grief as they prepare for the exam, but hopefully this has clarified it for you. Okay? My advice to you, my friends, is understand that formulas are important. They are very important, but they are not so insurmountable that you cannot deal with them. Okay? So the summary of all I've said today is you gotta be a mover. That's PMP boss behavior. Move the volume. Get it done. Move it to the side. Done with the formulas. Next. That needs to be your perspective. Some of you are using formulas as an excuse. Relentless excuse. Oh, I'm still working on the formulas. No. Not good enough. Not good enough. I need you to get done. Tie everything up. Call it a day. All right? Thank you very much for joining me. This is a live only stream. So the moment we get done, this stream will no longer be available. Okay? If you have any questions about formulas, maybe you've got questions about some of the things we looked at today, feel free to always put them in the box, in the comments. Comments is always the best place because I'll see them almost immediately. All right, my friends. Well, thank you very much, and I look forward to speaking to you again, hopefully very soon. Take care, and bye for now.